Hi everybody, my name is YM. I hope everyone's having a good weekend. One funny thing, the tripod that I used to film videos, it broke. So I'm kind of improvising and I've got my camera perched against some books until I can actually go out and get another tripod. What I wanted to talk to you about is how do we as people who are not white cisgender men, black people, transgender people, gay and lesbian people, disabled folks, and women, feminine of center people, how do we center our voices in media? For example, take the U.S. presidential election that's happening here in this country, that's going to be happening in November. And the two candidates we have, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I just read an article, I saw an article yesterday that said that they are the most, it was in Telesur, the English edition. But I've seen this in The Guardian, I've seen this on CNN. The fact that both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are probably the most hated presidential candidates in U.S. history. I saw that 2/3 of registered voters actually don't like either candidate. So if that's the case, well, how did Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump become the front runners for their respective parties? And one thing that I would argue, and you could disagree with me, but one thing that I would argue is the fact that the voices of black people, specifically, black people at the intersections, black women, black queer trans people, black folks who are considered part of the left, or black people who have, generally more critical political views than the masses of voters, regardless of race. Our voices are kind of locked out of the new. They're locked out on news shows and in media in general. Like a lot of times we make our own media, particularly black folks who are activists, black people who are queer, LGBTQ activists and feminists. We're making our own media. We have our own blogs. We have our own YouTube channels, like the one you're watching right now. But how many of the masses of black people, everyday black folks who are registered voters, and the majority of African Americans are registered Democrats, and a lot of them are supporting Hillary Clinton. Well, how are we able to have dialogue and get our message out to our fellow African American voters? If we're not on the news shows, if we're not talking about the fact that Hillary Clinton, if the majority of older black women over 45 are voting for Hillary Clinton because of name recognition, how do we as black people who are activists, as black people who are conscious of how Hillary Clinton's policies have contributed to mass incarceration, or crackdowns on immigration, or interference in the policies of other sovereign nations like Haiti or Honduras? How do we get our message out to our fellow black voters? If you don't see us on NBC News, if you don't see us on ABC News or CBS, then we can't get our message out to you. So, it makes it impossible for us to get our message out there, to talk to fellow black folks, because the news is dominated by white cis male voices or white people's voices. Even, women pundits who are either, whether they support, Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, most of them are white cis women, and they have very middle of the road political views. They're either political moderates or they are very, very, very liberal. Well, a lot of us aren't liberal at all. A lot of us have, radical or revolutionary views. Like we don't just want reform. We want a total revolution of values in the United States. We want an end to mass incarceration. We want an end to economic violence, job discrimination. We want an end to a society that is dominated by people who would discriminate against us, people who are transphobic, people who are anti-black and anti-indigenous. We want to end to that society. We want to end to the colonial, patriarchal, cis-sexist American society as we know it. And if you don't hear us, if we're not able to share our message with you, then how do you know that we're even out there? A lot of black and brown people don't even realize that there are black and brown leftists. That's a big problem. That erases us from public discourse. Now that's just dealing with the United States. Think about issues of global affairs in internationally, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Africa, or Asia. Again, white cis male voices dominate. British and American reporters dominate global news. So if we're talking about an issue, whether it's the case of the referendum that's coming up in the UK, where the British are thinking about leaving the European Union, or whether it's the issues of the political upheaval that's happening in Brazil right now, the fact that their former president Dilma Rousseff got impeached, and the fact that she was widely supported by black Brazilian people, black Brazilian voters, but she was impeached, and the fact that you don't hear black Brazilian voices in that issue, the fact that when you're talking about the idea of Britain leaving the European Union, you don't hear black or Asian British voices in that issue for the most part. There was one in last week, a few days ago, there was one discussion that I saw on Channel 4. They had streamed it. It aired on Channel 4 television, but they also streamed it on Facebook. And it was a discussion of largely black and Asian British people, most of whom were born in Britain, but a lot of some who were came as immigrants from Africa and Asia as well. Where they were talking about the upcoming EU referendum about Britain leaving, and so they got, for the first time that I saw as an American, there were black and Asian British voices talking about the Brexit issue, and that was very important, because the only voice I had heard about with the whole struggle around Brexit is white voices. Whether it was the voices of conservative politicians like George Osborne, David Cameron, Boris Johnson, Ian Duncan Smith, or it was the more liberal progressive voices in Britain, they were all white cis voices. And so again, if our perspective as black and brown people, whether we're in Britain, whether we're in the United States, whether we're in Nigeria or Brazil or China or India, if our perspective is not in global news, if you're not hearing from us, then how do we know? How do we know that there is a left perspective out there? That there are left voices, that there are actual revolutionary voices who want actual systemic revolutionary change in our societies. You would never know we existed, and sometimes as black and brown people, especially if we're queer trans people, we don't know that we exist. I know what I think. I know that I don't like Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, but I don't know that there are other black and brown people out there who agree with me. I don't know that. So I only know that if I see you on TV or if I see you on the internet. So having our voices out there is very important. So what is the solution? As I said earlier, a lot of us are already making our own media. We have our own blogs. We are making videos, like the video I'm making right now. Some of us do manage to go on talk shows, to go on national news. When we had the struggle here in we still have the struggle here in North Carolina around HB2, which is the transphobic, or rather the trans-misogynist bathroom bill. Our governor and our state legislature used trans-misogynist hysteria to rally conservative voters for the November election. That's the whole point of HB2. And so a lot of us who have struggled against that issue have gone on. We've been invited sometimes on the national shows. For the most part, still even within the LGBTQ community, it's white cis male voices that dominate. Usually, it's people from the big national, gay rights organizations, or say Human Rights Campaign, or the Equality Federations. But sometimes grassroots black and brown queer trans activists have managed to go on news shows or radio shows and talk about how HB2 affects our community, and that's been very important. But, in general, it's going to have to take a massive community, collective effort on our part to get our voices on the mainstream news. And, we without our viewership, without our patronage, the mainstream news can't exist. Yes, these are corporate-owned companies, but they still rely on ratings. They still rely on the page clicks, the ad dollars. And, without us, they can't exist. And so, we have to collectively, raise our voice. I know for me, I've been reluctant to do that in the past because I just feel like they wouldn't listen to me anyway. Now, of course, I am one person. It is harder to listen to one person. But if we, if we en masse, challenge contact these news directors, these program directors, these producers on these talk shows and news shows, if we're demanding, no, you need to bring on more women, you need to bring on more Black and brown women and Black and brown trans women. If we make our voices heard, we can make a dent in this problem of our voices being locked out of the news. We deserve to have our voices out there. That goes without saying. And we need to know that we need to know that we exist. We need affirmation that we exist. Because when you don't see yourself in media, when you don't see yourself in discourse, it's hard to see yourself as a political actor. It's hard to see yourself or recognize yourself as someone who even exists in society. For me, media is one more front on which to struggle. And that's something I intend to continue doing. So I want to hear your thoughts on this, and just let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please share this video and also subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much.